this meet today, I've had a very good darshan in the morning. Jai Jagannath. A word on the theme of the conference. I think it is very relevant. I think it also has a lot of sambhavna for discussion and of sharing ideas. Because digital era means different things to different people. But for all of you all in this profession, there's so much that you can share among yourselves and therefore be the premier institution and its members to set global standards in an era where everything seems to be digital. Everything seems to be digital is actually doing a lot of good for countries like India, where transparency is coming in because of digitalization. Now, that itself is a good virtue to build on the digitalized domains of operation, but to share ideas on it and also identify possibilities, opportunities, being digital and getting to be even more digital is a very useful theme. And for you all to be together for 3 days talking that, I think will result in very good outcomes. And I look forward to knowing about the outcomes. First of all, I think the biggest opportunity that you can derive out of digitization is at a very cost-effective way, spread literacy, financial literacy. And you might think I'm starting on a very weak opportunity. Who's bothered about literacy? Yeah, people will get to know what it is all about and so on. No, not at all. I think it is the financial literacy, and also because most things are already put on the public domain in the digital public domain, you saw a revolution which happened in India, and I'm sure all of you have recognized it, but I'm drawing it in this context now here. It is only because listed companies and their information were all publicly available, regularly updated, and with a certain sense of efficiency, the chartered accountants helped companies to prepare their accounts in time, and it became a mandatory requirement for them to put it on the public domain. MCA portal did it, and it continues to do it. That in 2020, when people were spending too much time at home, and also because of the digital access which was provided, a lot of retail investors found it fit to get into the stock market. I wouldn't think it is possible if we were still going to be partly digitized or not digitized at all. It was only because digitized accounts were available and also the public were at ease using data which is available in public domain, even on their phones. They didn't have to go to even to their desktops. As a result, you found that the ordinary retail investor had the information in the proverbial tips of his fingers and was able to take a call that you found at that time, coincidentally, when the interest rates were not very high. People thought it fit to take that little risk and get into the stock market. Some did it even without going through the mutual funds, opened their demat accounts, and they were up there playing in the stock market, playing in a positive sense, and therefore giving a picture how India's small savers today are equally at ease with fixed deposits as much as opening a demat account and going into the stock market. And that is possible when companies are board-driven, when they have proper cost and chartered accountants with them, and when the guidance given by these experts has helped them to remain transparent and put most things under due diligence. That is what digitization does for you. Not just between the company and the bookkeeper, not just between the company and the cost accountant, not just between the company and the income tax authorities, but when all these information are available digitally, the ordinary public, discerning public, builds trust. And when trust gets built about companies, the image of a country which invites investments from abroad, image of a country which has to have its due diligence aligning with the world, are all falling in place. And therefore, this is what the opportunity that the digitization gives us. I've just given you a across the board big opportunity which exists, but there are several which I will count as points for me to explain today. Aniket was very clear in saying that your footprint is all over the country. When I spoke about the financial literacy, it is because of this digitization helps you. Not everybody is going to be near your chapter office. And therefore, when you can rightly boast about having 168 branches all across country, in 5 regional councils which are present, and in 17,000 postal codes area, you have somebody registered, and the country has only 19,000 postal codes, 19,100 postal code areas. You are present in 17,000 of them. So I think for financial literacy and for course contents to be given to these students who are present all over the country, you are in a position to better utilize digital access to the students and therefore be readily available for them. It's also heartening to know that the ICAI has started financial and tax literacy campaigns. I understand you're doing it all through the country. And this is going to help a lot of people, in spite of all that is available in public domain. A lot of people still get carried away by misinformation campaigns. And when you as Chartered Accountancy institution, run a financial literacy and tax literacy campaign, it certainly has a lot of credibility. So people can be stopped from allurements, I would think. Similarly, the moment I saw the title of the financial literacy campaign, I was a bit worried. And I will say this on a day when, to the credit of the Human Resources and Skills Minister, today he had released 2 books for students who belong to certain tribal communities who speak dialects in India. Dialects are not written, as you know, but because they belong to Orissa, for those dialects, in Oriya script, primers have been produced and he's released it. Now that was in the back of my mind, but when I saw the name, Vittiya Gyan ICA Ka Abhiyan, I said, oh my God, this is so much of Hindi. People like us coming from the south are going to be in difficulty. And particularly in Tamil Nadu, it will be severely difficult. So I said, but then, glad came the next part of the sentence. It says 12 vernacular languages are being undertaken. Vernacular itself is so colonial. So in 12 regional languages, you are undertaking this financial Vittiya Gyan. So I'm so happy that you are now readily reflecting the flexibility that the NEP offers. Mother tongue is being emphasized. So however much you want to align yourself with the global accountancy practices and be able to communicate effectively with all your MOU signed countries, it is important for us to have regional languages cultivated so that you recognize and honor the members who belong to so many different states. I also will recognize the role that the ICAI plays in ensuring a smooth implementation of the GST, and the thousands of GST awareness campaigns and programs that you've helped educate lakhs of participants has actually made a difference in the collection and also widening of the tax base. Minister Dharmendra Pradhan was right in emphasizing that MSMEs are the backbone of this country, and we need a lot of hand-holding and support for them. Various initiatives that you have taken in capacity building for the MSMEs and for startups through your committees are well recognized, and I commend you for that service that you are extending. In the profession itself and using technology, there are several areas in which I think you've started taking a lot of steps, which you have yourself spoken about: data analytics, generative AI, and so on. I'm not going to get into the details of the virtues of such things, but it is certainly important that the traditional image of accounting as a tedious and manual process is rapidly evolving, and evolving for your good. And I think that's therefore something which we have to appreciate and also take further. It is, of course, between today, tomorrow, and day after that you're going to talk as to how these technology-driven platforms and also the tools that can be leveraged to make your profession a lot more efficiency-driven, accuracy-driven, and also the quality of work. Because ultimately technology, whether in manufacturing industries or in service sectors, aims at improving productivity. And I think that is the emphasis which I'll put before you as one of the Sambhavna, because the productivity gains which you're going to get out of technology and the adaptation of technology is something which is very unique, and that can only be felt when you get it. There's no way in which you can read about it and say, oh, this is going to improve my productivity. No, when you do it, when you use it, when you adapt it, you realize how much of a change it can bring towards greater productivity. Now, if you have more than 8 lakh students and 4 lakh members, it is going to be a big task for all of them to be drawn in with the same enthusiasm, but that's the work of the institution, I would think. And also, I was already reading and fairly impressed about the fact that the Committee for Review of Education and Training, which used to take decades from the time it is announced to give a new set of curriculum, is now doing a very rapidly short, collapsed kind of a job of when it was earlier. Committees appointed, you take 9, 8, 10 years to get a curriculum launched. Now it's all happening within 3 years, but I suppose with the use of technology that can even further shortened. But of course there are newer areas in which chartered accountants will have to familiarize themselves with the global developments. Not just to comply with their expectation, but also to better advise your clients on absolutely new greenfield areas, whether they are carbon accounting, whether they are CSR accounting and auditing for that, whether it is the ESG, the environment, social and governance related expectations on which now due diligence is so required by your clients, for even negotiating for transfer of technology, for negotiating for funds, for negotiating with partnerships. So unless you are familiar with the newer growing areas and you understand what are the expectations, and for all that, you know, you may want to set up newer standards about which you were partly referring to, but in each one of these areas, you will have to set up best practices and also be able to, put the best efforts on a best endeavor basis, but of course in the long run to make that as the template for everybody to follow. Therefore, a new course for CAs which has been launched from 1st July, about which you referred, 2023, and that which is being planned to be implemented from the next year, 1st July 2024, is of critical relevance. So there is just no discussion on the Sambhavna, you will have to do it from 1st July 2024. So I think it's very important, and I recognize in the presence of the Education Minister that the new scheme, the new ICAI course is very much in line with the new education policy. So, and when I say it is in line with the new education policy, what does that drive from the new education policy give you? What does it infuse you with? The focus is now more on how to learn rather than what to learn. That mindset of, by heart everything and then you're through with it no longer works. The new education policy gives that creative instinct to learning, and therefore you want to know how to learn rather than just sections which you can by heart and get through with things. And therefore it completely echoes a shift from what to think to how to think. So when you're looking at carbon accounting, when you're looking at social stock exchange and so on, it is the how which is going to matter when you're looking at keeping the books, advising your clients, and also due diligences. So I have reasons to believe that these 3 days are going to give us a lot more information post your discussions. I'm not going to get into greater matters of trust building with the clients, trust building with others, but I just want to highlight the number of countries with whom mutual recognition and MOUs for the profession is being signed. The government is very active in making sure that India's chartered accountants would be global leaders, and you will have engagement with your counterparts in the other countries, and thereby giving the best knowledge and work experience that you have for others who may need it. And Prime Minister Modi's vision that the lifestyle for environment, that all of us will have to nudge ourselves to do things differently so that we don't need energy, whether it is through renewable or otherwise, to do things which can be done without it. So we'll have to move towards a more sustainable way of living. There are so many and more messages which are being passed through with these kind of campaigns which are going on. You've constituted a sustainability reporting standards board which was done in 2020, and also standards and sustainability assurance engagements in January 2023, I think. So you've almost formulated 16 social audit standards. I recognize the work that has gone through there. I was for a minute earlier talking about the MOUs. I think in May, ICAI has renewed its MOU with the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. There's also, it might just be a coincidence, negotiations are happening for free trade agreement with the UK. The Commerce Ministry is engaging with them, so there's a lot for looking forward to working together with your counterparts in England. Other than that, the mutual recognition and MOUs with Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, Canada, Malaysia, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, and South Africa should be absolutely fully leveraged. So India and its new economy is being driven by startups, driven by new age industries, driven by transitioning industry from the old ways of doing things to new ways of doing things. All of this requires your support, your hand holding your clients, your nudging your clients to move towards greater technology. And all this is just going to be possible only if you are on the top of technology yourself for your profession. So I hope you will build on the successes of the World Congress of Accountants, which was held in November 2022. You should strive to forge greater collaborations. The National Conference 2023 should also cover topics such as the GST, audit, and direct taxes also. I wish you, the Bhubaneswar and Orissa chapter, and the president of the ICAE, Ranjit Kumar Agarwal, and also Aniket Talati and Ranjit Kumar Agarwal, all the success, and looking forward to a center of excellence in Orissa.
Well, it's a standing ovation. Thank you, madam, for those words of wisdom. I think that's the key takeaway. Mr. Rajesh Bhatia, who's the CFO of Uflex, the company has posted a consolidated loss after tax of 416 odd crore rupees in this quarter. However, this was largely due to an exceptional item. Mr. Bhatia, welcome to Business Today TV. Sakshi Desai, and with me is also my colleague Shail Bhatnagar. My first question to you is about this exceptional item you took in this quarter gone by, which led to a loss in June quarter. Do you see this as a one-off, or could this also continue in the coming quarters?
I think we'll have to wait and watch as to how the things emerge, because Nigeria recently depegged its currency from a central bank related exchange, given exchange rate to a market parity. So there may be some more surprises in the next quarters or a few. All also depends on as to how the dollar behaves. Internationally, we've seen that in many jurisdictions we are present. We've seen the dollar shortage, like, last year, Egypt was the key in terms of the losses we took on account of the devaluation of Egyptian pound versus the dollars. So I think both things are playing a part. One is removal of a fixed peg by Central Bank of Nigeria and the dollar availability in many of these, upcoming economies. I'll keep my fingers crossed over the next few quarters as I see the exchange parity stabilizing.
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Bhatia. A brief about Uflex. It's selling flexible packaging solutions in India, and is the maker of BOPET films. These are biaxially oriented polyethylene tetraethylate films, which you see on window screens, on your car screens, etc. Mr. Bhatia, welcome to Business Today Television. It's been a very bad phase for the entire industry. You are no exception. When do you see the overall flexible packaging industry turning around? We've seen pretty bad numbers coming in from the entire sector, and yours just showed a net loss.
So I think we'll have to split this problem into two. One is India and other is the global. So while India is a clear case of bunching of capacities at one point in time in the current year, beginning with, I would say, about 6 to 8 months ago. Overseas, it's a problem. Europe and America, particularly, which are very large markets for us, and we have manufacturing facilities as well as we trade in a lot of product over there as well. So there, it's a structural issue what we are facing. So there is a lack of consumption because, in Europe, the energy prices have gone up. the mortgage costs have gone up, and in US with the quantitative tightening as well as the rising interest rates, it's affecting the consumption in some ways as the consumers align their budgets to pay more for the mortgages and for the energy in Europe and pay for the more of the mortgages in USA and coupled with the high inflation in US. So if we all believe that the increase in the Fed led interest rate is coming to an end, I think we'll see the light in the next 1 or 2 quarters. India, let's talk about India. India, there are few plants which got bunched together, and that's why we are seeing a bit of overcapacity, which is leading to these crash in prices. I think that will get adjusted in next 3 to 6 months time or so, because we typically seen that India on an average can accommodate two new capacities coming on stream in a particular year. So I think that is another maximum 3 months kind of a thing that we see. BOPP already we see that the prices have been better in this quarter as compared to last quarter. But the BOPET is what is keenly we are all watching. And being an industry leader along with the other
Right.
industry players, we sure that this position gets corrected in about 3 months' time.
Mr. Bhatia, of course, this quarter, the quarter gone by, was hit by a one-time charge on your balance sheet and P&L account. In the subsequent quarters, do you see UFlex turning positive? The reason why I ask this is we've seen very, very deep undervaluation on the entire sector. I mean, 14,000 crores is your top line and market capitalization is just 2,700 crores. The market is completely ignoring the sector. What would be your forecast for the coming 3 quarters as far as UFlex's bottom line is concerned, sir?
I think if we see this quarter, we saw about 9.3% EBITDA margin on a top line of about 3,300 odd crores. So I think as our the Harvard facility got commissioned from 1st of April, and that's why in India we've seen a 22% volume growth in the Q1 on a YOY basis. We will also see uptick in demand in the global markets. So overall, I think given this exception loss kept aside, I think for the year as a whole, we'll definitely be, into the profits. I hope that the margin profile improves from about 9.3% currently to about 12% for a year as a whole basis. And we see the silver lining at least in H2. So that's what we feel that should be the order of the FY24 for us.
Okay. Could you also talk to us about your debt reduction plans going forward?
Debt reduction is happening on its own. We have, when we go do any capex projects and all that, so there are certain amortization schedules which are there as part of that debt that we raise. So that's happening. That's about 500 crores happening each year for us. But because we are also constantly expanding and adding new capacity, which means you are adding more of the top line as well as the bottom line. So if we see ourselves 5 years before and now, I think we more than doubled in our top line as well as the profitability. So while the debt is being added, I think we are looking very cautiously that we do not get saddled with an extra debt what is non-sustainable. So we very conscious of that, and we'll take care of that. Having said that, about 500 to 600 crore is the annual amortization of the debt, which will keep on happening. But having said that, wherever there are opportunities to grow in our field, I think we'll have to look at those growth plans. Aseptic packaging, particularly if you've seen that, we've hit our capacity constraints in the current year for what we can supply. Uh, the market has been also soft this year for the aseptic packaging, given that, we had early monsoon this year, which means that, the demand for any liquid juices or drinks and all that goes down. But we also had a capacity constraint. We couldn't do on that. So by the end of this fiscal, we'll have our capacity expanded to about 12 billion packs a year, which is not which is by debottlenecking our existing facility only at a small capex. So I think once that comes in next year, we will, if we see about 12 billion packs a year selling from this business, I think that will add more to the revenues, because there the margin profile is much better than the flexible packaging as well as the packaging films. So overall, that business looks very promising. And once we achieve a 12 billion capacity and we are able to sell that capacity, so obviously in the current plant, then there is no further sort of debottlenecking opportunities available. So we'll have to then look at, in a couple of years, probably from now, look at fresh investments in some of these businesses where we are running at a very high capacity utilization levels.
So, Mr. Bhatia, is there any possibility of the demerger of your packaging business also from your film business? Because that has also been something that the state has been watching out for a long time.
I think that's not on the cards as of now, because, both the business complement each other. Like, India per se, if you see our packaging films business, and given that we are the largest flexible packaging company in the country also, so there is a lot of internal consumption also happening, in that. What we were planning to do rather about a year back was to look at a US listing, which we had to defer because of the markets, didn't support us. But at an opportune time, we will definitely look at that opportunity again. And the valuation play in the global markets is far, far, far better than what we see. How the India markets, sort of values all the companies in this segment, but especially,
Right.
The packaging film segment. So I think that will be a game changer. We thought so that, that will be the best, because we have a substantial business overseas. Our overseas business itself is close to about $1 billion today. And that's a very substantial business.
Right. Mr. Bhatia, what is your existing capacity utilization overall, and how much of fresh capacity are you going to add in this financial year?
So this financial year, I don't think so we are adding any further capacity. By the end of this fiscal, we would have done the aseptic debottlenecking from current capacity of about 7 billion packs to about 12 billion packs. Whatever capacities had to come on the packaging film side, they are already implemented. And as I said that, from 1st of April, we commissioned our Dharwad project in Karnataka. So there are no further large capacities which are coming on stream. There is a backward integration facility which we are setting up in Panipat for making the resin polyester chips at Panipat, which will cater to our domestic as well as the international facilities. So that will happen probably by the end of this fiscal as well.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Bhatia, for your time. And we sincerely hope that the coming 3 quarters would see UFlex, India's largest flexible packaging company, report a green tick on its bottom line.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.
What are the one or two stocks that you would look at in terms of adding to the portfolio via systematically investing over them on a monthly period?
Well, I have always been a believer of creating portfolio when the markets correct. And unfortunately, the human tendency is not only in India, across the globe, is the herd mentality. Markets going up 500,000 points, you will run to the stock market to invest money as if there is no tomorrow. Similarly, when the markets correct, you will run even faster to go and sell your stocks as if there is no tomorrow. So I think you have to change this approach. When the market corrects, I think if you have a long-term time horizon, these are great times. So I have two investment ideas this morning. One of them is an FMCG company which came out with its numbers very recently, ITC. And I think post the demerger of hotel business news, whatever correction that has come in, and of course on fallback of earnings that we saw very recently, it's a great opportunity to nibble into ITC. So that is the first one. And my sense is that after being an out performer in the FMCG sector for the last 6 to 8 months, this stock has now kind of matured. And my sense, our sense at Geojit Shell is that all the verticals on the balance sheet is going to fire up and start contributing to a greater extent. Forget about, leave alone the tobacco and cigarette business. I think all other businesses. The second one is from the public sector bank. Again, one of the underperformers, but earnings have been extremely well over the last couple of quarters. And that is the leading public sector bank, State Bank of India. Both these stocks, Shell, I believe the correction that we witnessed is a great opportunity to nibble into these two stocks.
And look at State Bank of India first. You have the chart in front of you, and as Gaurang very rightly pointed out, you must buy stocks when they are in pain and when none of their financials and none of their other internal workings show any kind of pain. So you have State Bank of India trading at about its lowest levels since 27th of June, and the stock has corrected from 621 to 560. Of course, short-term markets are unpredictable, and one really does not know when the stock will reverse, but a simple systematic investment plan of buying one or two shares every month or every week will help you tremendously. Gaurang, you went through the earnings of State Bank of India on a quarterly basis. It is now India's most profitable company. Quarterly profit surged beyond 18,000 crores. Anything that you caught disconcerting in SBI's earnings, and what is the reason for this correction that we've seen from 620 to 560?
Larger than expectation on the number front, and of course the run up that we saw, Shell, just before the numbers that came in. And I think it's more of that, NPAs or gross or net NPAs would start rising up, provisioning will go up, margins will come under pressure because people are thinking since the inflation is high, interest rates might move up, etc., etc. But our opinion is absolutely on the flip side. And I always love to sit in the opposition when the larger vote is on one side, Shell. So my sense is that everything is priced in. Credit growth, we are extremely positive. And I'll tell you one simple thing, Shell. If India has to become the next $1 trillion economy, which I strongly believe it will, then banking and finance will have to play a role, or they'll have to take the lead in terms of taking us to that next $1 trillion economy. Because without credit growth, you are not going to be there. And credit growth is important. Liquidity is important for anything and everything, whether it is manufacturing or services. You need liquidity. And they are into business of lending monies and liquidity. So my sense is that liquidity will be, credit demand will be extremely strong. Interest rates, our sense earlier was that by this year end, December 23, you will see rate cuts coming through in a small fashion. But that we pushed it back to first calendar quarter, that is Jan, Feb, March 24, in case if the inflation has to come down sizably, that will give us a comfort. So, and of course, provisioning is likely to come down even further because of the recovery track growth. So I'm not really concerned about short to medium term speed breakers, but the long term growth story is definitely intact. So my only concern in short to medium term is that in case if these inflation numbers have to grow up, there will be a lot of noise in the street, Shell, as we are used to, that banking and finance will be in some kind of a trouble. But I strongly don't believe, we strongly don't believe at Geojit. We believe long-term growth story is still in that.
Right. So here is what Gaurang's hypothesis is, that you might see short-term pain, and that's when you should set up a quality portfolio. So if you find SBI slipping over time, keep on adding. There will come a time when the stock will reverse and reclaim its previous highs. Gaurang, before we get into ITC and into pre-open, would you hazard a 1-year price target on SBI?
I would, if you have to put a gun on my temple, I would say 720.
Oh, wonderful. We won't put a gun on your temple. We just make gentle requests. And again, I would like to ask you your tailor's name and address, which I'm sure you will message me in SMS. There are very few people in this world who are not on WhatsApp.